Hey everyone, welcome back to another short episode of The Manager and the Man. You know, if you're tuning in again, thank you so much for coming back. And if this is your first time watching, well, I'm just glad you're here with me. You know, these monthly episodes are just a chance for me to kind of sit down, share how we run certain operations here at a behavioral health clinic, which is LiveWell. It's located here in Chandler, Arizona. My name is Giovanni, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at LiveWell. And in these episodes, I'm going to speak on the professional aspect of LiveWell and, you know, how to just a manager in general. And then I speak on the my personal life as well, on how they affect each other. So last month, I talked about how we started up as an organization and how it is to operate a startup organization. But today I want to focus on something just as important, which is the word communication. That's a huge word. So let me be real with you as I speak to you. At LiveWell, we're still learning how to communicate better as an organization. Being that we're only turning 4 years old next month, which I'm excited about, and God willing, if we make it to year 10, we'll still be learning, because communication is just one of those things you can improve on yearly. And I'm not talking about public speaking, because people often confuse being a good public speaker with being a good communicator. And I've heard this before, man, there's such a great communicator, such a good communicator. But no, they're just a really good speaker. And don't get it twisted, you know, if I can pop some balloons. I heard my uncle once say that there are people who are meant to speak and there are people who are meant to move speakers. So you put two and two together of who you are. But got that out the way. To me, a great communicator is someone who can say the hard things with clarity and respect. Someone who can say, for example, hey, I need you on time to work. You got here at 8:15, I need you here at 8 a.m. Or, hey, you didn't hit your deadline. You didn't get the report in when I asked you to. Or, hey, I overheard you in the other room. And we don't talk like that here. That's not how we treat people. That's not how we operate in our culture. To me, that's real communication. It's honest, it's direct, it's rooted in care, accountability. You know, and that type of communication, it's not easy. I don't care who you are. That's hard communication for anyone to confront anyone. So at LiveWell, we're working and building that daily, just a communication aspect. And it's not perfect, but we're committed to growing in it together. So today what I wanted to do is just share with you 3 C's that you want to have within your communication at your workplace or your department that I try to bring in every day to my one-on-one meetings, especially when there's an employee that has a concern about a decision that I've made or a question about the company. So these 3 C's are, the first one is concentrate, the second is copy, and the third is clarity. So let's start off right away. So the first one with concentrate. So at LiveWell, we have something called O3s, which stand for one-on-one, O3s. And every manager is expected to have at least one O3 per month. Where each of their direct reports. More if needed, of course. But these meetings are just designed to check on how things are going. How's the month been? What's going on at home? How's the department running? It's really a chance just to pause and really connect. They can go to a coffee shop, they can go out and get some lunch. But for me personally, the goal in these meetings, it's really simple. It's to be quiet and listen, and I tell myself, shut up, stupid. That's really what it is, because as managers, as a manager, we do enough talking, giving directions, setting expectations, making decisions. But in these moments, it's about concentrating. It's about truly hearing the person across from you. And I'll be honest, this can be tough. It's hard, because sometimes what you might hear is how the employee is really feeling, or maybe where you've fallen short as a leader. And our natural instinct is to get defensive right away. And then your mind starts racing on how to respond or push back. But meanwhile, the person is just opening up and being vulnerable. And I've been in O3s where the employee is probably frustrated. It's probably emotional about the company, about me. So in these moments, I just remind myself, Giovanni, don't take it personal. You know, they're not attacking, they're just expressing. And you know, it's my job just to concentrate, to listen, and to understand. And that part is tough. That part is tough because, let's be honest, most of us were taught in school or college on how to speak, how to talk. and not really how to listen. You know, there's entire courses on public speaking, but nothing when it comes to truly listening. And that's a skill in leadership that we really, really need. So in these one-on-one conversations, I just try to make it a point not to interrupt. I try to make it a point not to interrupt. And I know it's not easy for anyone, especially on the other end, to sit down and just tell their boss, their manager, how they really feel, what's been going on. So I try to create this safe space for them to kind of speak freely. You know, one thing that's helpful is when you write things down during the conversation. You know, to me, not only does it show the person that you care about them and what they're saying, but it also helps yourself kind of circle back to those important points later. Because you don't want to forget something meaningful that they shared just because the conversation moved on. I would say I kind of have a good memory when it comes to the workplace, which helps when it comes to the office, but you know, the shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. So, and that brings us to C number 2, which is copy. You know, this is where you take all that listening, you take all that concentrating, and you put it into action now. Because if you don't follow through here, the person across from you, they're gonna know, well, you weren't really paying attention. You weren't really listening to me. So what I do is once the person finishes speaking or talking, I like to break things down into topics. Because sometimes the individual can speak for 5 minutes straight, 3 minutes straight, 8 minutes straight. And within that talking, that conversation, or when they're speaking, you might hear 2 to 3 important topics or themes that stand out. So first I want to do is kind of thank them for sharing that. And then I say something like, so this is what I heard you say. I heard you first say something about, being on time to work. That was an issue, or your coworker. So I break it up into topics, list it up into topics. And this is what I picked up on. And then I let them know, hey, I'm going to address each one. So this is where the second C comes in, which is the copy. You know, copy just means to repeat back what they said in their words as much as possible. So I usually start by saying, okay, so we're gonna start with the first topic. This is what I heard you say. You know, you had an issue with your coworker because you felt like they were being lazy. Is that correct? And so this gives them a chance to either confirm or clarify. And maybe they say, yep, that's exactly what I meant. Or they can say, oh, no, actually, this is what I meant. Either way, I repeat it again to make sure we're on the same page. Because as leaders, we're repeaters. That's the goal, is to make sure we're on the same page when it comes to that. So, and also the goal is to avoid putting words in their mouth or creating your own version of their story. Because let me tell you something, you're not there to rewrite their narrative, you're there to understand it. And remember, these one-on-ones, it's not about you, it's about them. So copying what they say just kind of shows that you're listening, that you care, that you're committed to getting it right. So the first C is concentrate, the second C is copy, and the third C is clarity. Listen, to be clear is to be kind. I'm gonna say that again. To be clear is to be kind. In these conversations, clarity is king. Clarity is at the top. Because you wanna make sure by the time you walk out, they walk out, there's clarity. That they have clarity, that you have clarity, that there's no lingering confusion, no mixed messages, no assumptions. So this might look like addressing how they felt about something that you said or did. Maybe it means apologizing. Maybe it means explaining the reason behind a certain decision. And this goes both ways, you know. And hear me, if you're a direct report, your boss does not have to agree with your perspective. And vice versa, you don't have to agree with each other. But you gotta make sure you align. So something I live what we say is, you don't have to agree with me, but when we walk out this room, we have to align with each other. That's the ultimate goal. And so I try to say this in every meeting. Hey, tell me what's going on. Is there any feedback, anything else that you wanna let me know? Because once the meeting is over, I don't wanna hear about it again through gossip or another employee, because that's when I get frustrated. Because I just gave you an opportunity to bring it to me directly. So at the end of those meetings, I make sure to say something like, hey, this is why I did what I did. This is why I made this choice, made this decision. And this is what I need from you moving forward. So here are some deadlines, Here's some emails just to kind of follow up on. Because if they leave confused or I leave confused, then confusion is gonna just spread throughout the office, and that's not a good thing. And here's the truth. If there's confusion in the office space, there's gonna be confusion in the marketplace. Meaning if your team isn't aligned internally, then people on the outside, customers, families, partners, they're gonna feel that as well. So, and yes, sometimes clarity just comes at the expense of, how can I say it, hurting someone's feelings. And I know that might sound a little harsh, but sometimes it is necessary. For example, hey, I'm gonna have to write you up, and here's the reason why. Or hey, you didn't respond to my message in a timely manner, and communication matters. Or hey, I noticed you haven't been engaged this past month, and you really haven't been talking. That's not how we operate here. You know, for me, that's being clear. That's being a good communicator. You know, you both need to walk away knowing exactly what was said and what was expected. And lastly, let me say this. In these one-on-one conversations, these O3s, it's important to hold regularly because confrontation has an expiration date. Confrontation has an expiration date. So if you see something that doesn't sit right with you or you're unsure about, bring it up. Bring it up. Don't wait, and because managers, we do this a lot. Don't wait until months later when emotions are high, and now you're pulling out receipts from like January 10th about somebody showing up late and we're in June. That's a no-no. Do not do that whatsoever. I say get a backbone, confront it, because confrontation has an expiration date. Handle it in the moment with clarity and respect. For me, that's how you build trust. That's how you build accountability. That's how you build a strong culture within your team, within your organization. That's the route to go. So, all right, so that was the professional, that was the manager. Just speaking how we operate and live well. So I wanna get into the man, and honestly, me personally. And I wanna stay on that topic of communication, and I'm gonna be vulnerable here. You know, for me, I see how people communicate, and some people it comes naturally. But for me, that's not how it is. And maybe I'm not the only one, or maybe I am. But I told people close to me when it comes to my professional life, man, I feel like communication comes easy. It's natural. I've heard professional athletes say this, that as they're progressing their careers, the game slows down for them and they can anticipate what's coming. And for me, that's how I feel in meetings, whether it's with school officials, city leaders, or planning sessions for the company, strategic planning, hiring, firing. For me, everything kind of slows down. How can I say, I can see the play before it happens. You know, I have these emotional and social awareness in the workplace. But personally, man, I feel like a fifth grader playing in the major leagues when it comes to my personal communication. And again, this has been a lifelong struggle for me. I struggled with this in my childhood, in my teenage years, in my young adult, and at 36 years old, I'm still working on it, whether that's through therapy, counseling, prayer, and I'm getting better, but it's a journey. And if I can speak from the perspective of a man, I think I can say I'm not alone in this. You know, I see athletes, CEOs, politicians, people who are incredible communicators in their careers, professional life. But when you look at their personal relationships, that's often a different story. Sometimes they're broken, sometimes it's strained. And I always think it's funny, and at the same time, it's probably sad as well, that as a man, you know, we can jump into a pickup basketball game with 4 total strangers, and we can communicate perfectly, calling out screens, plays, passing, rebounding. I mean, and then we win the game. It's crazy. But then when it comes to people we've known our whole lives, whether it's our spouses, siblings, friends, parents, man, we struggle to say how we really feel, and we end up losing. And I wish I had a clear answer for you today. I think a lot of it goes back to maybe how I was raised, how we were raised, and how we communicated with our parents, siblings growing up. And maybe women struggle with this too. I can't speak for everyone, but I'll say this. I know a lot of men know how to communicate well in their profession, but not so well in their personal life. So, hey, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If this resonated with you, I hope you continue on with this monthly journey with us. So make sure you subscribe to our East Valley Dream Center channel for more videos like this. So thank you again.